welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at Alma Mater. This is a 2 to 4 player worker placement resource management academic game where you take the role of chancellors of your own university in 15th century Europe. You will be gaining and exchanging knowledge in the form of books, attracting students and staff to your university, as well as completing research trying to become the most prestigious institution. How do you become the most prestigious institution and win the game? By having the most prestige points at the end of 6 rounds. Now that we know what the winning condition is, let's take a look at the components, setup, and how gameplay works in Alma Mater. Now let's take a look at the components. You have a double-sided main game board. One side is for 4 players, and the other side is for 2 and 3 players. On the main game board, you have the prestige track around the main game board. In the top left corner, you have the book reputation track. This track will give you income as well as determine cost. Below the book reputation track, you have the research track. This allows you to complete research and gain milestones. In the top middle of the main board, you have your campus. This is where the student tiles are located and where you will attract students to your university. Below the campus, you have the antiquarian, laboratory, park, bishop, colloquium. Below that is the turn order track, round track, and phase track. On the top right of the main board, you have the academy. This is where you will attract professors to your university. And then the bottom right of the board is the Hall of Fame. This is where you will gain bonuses based on completing the glory tiles. Next we have the round marker, phase marker, glory tiles. In each player color you have university boards. On the university board, in the bottom left corner you have the player color. Across the top you have your display, which will hold your bookshelves and your books of your player color. In the middle of your university board, you have the lecture halls that will house your students. On the bottom right of your university board, you have your archive, which will house your active masters. Below that is your dormitory, which will house your masters if you pass. And then at the bottom of your university board, you have the scoring reminder for the final scoring. Also in each player color, you have markers. These will be used to score prestige, research, and turn order. Masters, these will be used to carry out actions. Textbooks, these will be used to gain and share knowledge. And bookshelves, these will be used on your university board to house textbooks of your player color and to share knowledge with other universities. Tutors, these can be used throughout the game and are one-time use. Dictionaries, these are used to attract students and professors. Chancellor cards, these are your chancellor powers. Bust cards, these are used in the Hall of Fame. Setup cards, these are used to gain starting resources. Student tiles, these are used for their benefits. Professor cards, these are used to gain the displayed action once per round. Research cards, these are used to go up the research track and gain milestones. The milestones are at the top of each research card. 2-player game cards, these are used for the automated player when you're playing a 2-player game. Coins, price tiles, and finally, your rulebook. Now let's take a look at the setup. We're going to be setting this up for a 3-player game which takes 15 steps. Step 1, place the main board. You'll place the main board in the center of the play area with the side corresponding to the number of players. Step 2, research cards. Sort, shuffle, and place research cards. Sort the research cards by the letter on the back of the cards. Shuffle each stack, then randomly place one from each stack face up, going up the research track. Step 3, student tiles. Sort and place student tiles. Sort the student tiles by type and student, and then place the stack of 3 in a 4-player game or 2 in a 2 or 3-player game on each space in their corresponding column. Step 4, professor cards. Sort and place professor cards. Sort the professor cards by type and professor. When placing these, you'll place 3 in a 4-player game of each professor, and in a 2 or 3-player game, you'll place 2. Step 5, glory tiles. Sort, draw, and place glory tiles. Sort the glory tiles by the letter on the back of the tile, then randomly draw 1 from each stack and place them face up on their corresponding spaces in the Hall of Fame section of the main board. Step 6, bust cards. Place a number of bust cards of each letter equal to the number of players. Step 7, chancellor cards. Shuffle and draw chancellor cards. Shuffle the chancellor cards and then draw 2 and place them face up on bust cards B and C. Then draw an additional number of Chancellor cards equal to the number of players plus 1 and place them next to the main board. Step 8. Round and phase markers. Place the round marker on 1 and the phase marker on the leftmost spot on the phase track. Step 9. Player components. Choose a color and get the corresponding university board, markers, 4 masters, and 7 bookshelves. Then place the masters in the archive section on the bottom right of your university board. Step 10. Supply pools. Place the remaining masters in each player color, tutors, price tiles, coins, books of each player color, and dictionaries next to the main board. Step 11. Setup cards. Shuffle, deal, and draft setup cards. Shuffle the setup cards. Deal 4 setup cards to each player. Then each player will choose one of the setup cards and pass the remaining to the left. You will continue this process until all players have 4 cards. Once all the players have 4 cards, each player will choose one to discard. Keep in mind when choosing setup cards that the lowest total number, which are the numbers at the top of each setup card, will go first in turn order. Step 12. Reveal and adjust order. Each player will reveal the 3 setup cards they chose and place markers. The lowest total will go first on the turn order track. If there is a tie, then the lowest number in the bottom right corner of a single card between the 2 tied players will go first, and then place the remaining in ascending order with the highest total going last. Then you will stack markers in turn order on 0 on the prestige track and in turn order on the start on the research track. Step 13. Choose a chancellor card. In turn order, choose one chancellor card from the chancellor cards next to the main board and place it next to your university board. Then place the remaining chancellor card on top of the A bust cards in the Hall of Fame. Step 14. Bookshelves. Each player will arrange 6 bookshelves face up in their display, and then they will place one below on their university board. Keep in mind that these bookshelves have varying prestige value that other players will gain when they purchase books from your university board. These are to entice players to purchase knowledge from your university. Step 15. Get resources. In turn order, you will get the starting resources from your chosen setup cards. Green gears will advance you up the research track, and you would not have to pay the cost. For solid gray books, you would place books of your choice color in your supply. For yellow books, you would place a dictionary in your supply. For star books, you would place only your color books, and you would place those books in either your supply or your display. Keep in mind that you may not go from your display to your supply or vice versa. When placing them in your display, you would place them right to left. For students, you would place that student in the next free space in your lecture hall on your university board. For coins, you would gain that money. For the banners, you would gain that prestige. Now let's take a look at the gameplay. A game consists of 6 rounds. A round. A round consists of 3 phases: action phase, administrative phase, and income phase. Now let's take a look at each phase in detail. Phase 1, the action phase. In turn order, players will choose one of 2 options: to send masters and perform the indicated actions, or give a lecture by paying the book cost and gaining the benefit of a ready professor. Now let's look at the available actions where you can send your masters. These are the gray, red, and yellow circles and ovals on the main game board and your university board. Keep in mind that every gray circle can only be used once per player color, and for each use, it requires one more master each time. So the first person to use an action can place at least 1 master, and then the second person to use that action has to place 1 more master than the previous player. The campus action. This is where you will gain students to your lecture halls. You would pay the book cost at the top of the column based on the book reputation. In the first round, these can be any books. You would place the student in the next open lecture hall. The 6th student in your lecture halls would gain you an additional master, and students 7 through 11, you would pay the cost indicated on the slot. The academy action. This is where you will gain professors. For the first time a particular professor is purchased, you would pay the cost and then pay the books based on the number required. So for the top left professor, you would pay 8 in money and then pay 4 of one type of book, 3 of another type of book, 2 of another, and 1 of another. Then you would place 1 book on the indicated square based on what you paid. You would then take the professor card, place it next to your university board, and place a book on the professor card, matching the color of book that you used most to pay for the card. Then you would be able to use it immediately for free, exhausting the professor. When exhausting your professors, you would turn them horizontally. Antiquarian action. This is where you will pay 3 for 1 book, 6 for 1 book and 1 dictionary, or 9 for 1 book and 2 dictionaries. The laboratory action. You would choose either 3 black gears or 1 green. With a green gear, you do not pay for the next level on the research track. With the black gears, you have to pay the cost of the next level. Keep in mind that the top of each card on the research track is a milestone, and you would gain that benefit. The park action. You would pay 10 in money for 7 prestige. Student actions. These are the gray circles on your university board located on your student tiles. The actions of these students are located in the rulebook. The bishop action. You would place 1, 2, or 3 masters and gain the corresponding money. 1 master would gain you 2, 2 masters would gain you 5, and 3 masters would gain you 8. The number that is placed here determines the turn order for the next round. Colloquium. This is where you will buy textbooks from another player or buy dictionaries. When buying textbooks from another player, you must buy the books from that player's display, left to right, and you would pay the cost over the book. When doing so, you would choose one of the bookshelves that you bought a book from to gain the prestige on that bookshelf and flip that bookshelf over. It's good to keep in mind that once flipped over, these bookshelves will not flip back. When performing these actions, if you achieve a Hall of Fame requirement, which is the requirement located on the glory tiles, you would gain the benefit in that section, so an additional master, 2 dictionaries and 1 book, or 2 green gears, the bust card underneath the Chancellor in that section, which then indicates that you have the Chancellor's ability for the rest of the game. And then once a player takes an action, actions will continue going around until all the players pass. Once all the players have passed, we move to phase 2. The administrative phase. This is the phase that sets the board up for the next round. This phase is carried out in 6 steps. Step 1. Adjust the turn order. The most masters in the bishop location is the new start player. And then the second most would be the second player. Step 2. Check storage size. You would look at Lecture Hall A, and the rightmost student placed in Lecture Hall A has a book total above that tile. Then you would take that number, and if you have any additional students in your lecture hall that has books depicted, you would add them together, and that is the total number of books you can have in your supply. Your supply is the number of books and dictionaries not placed in your display. Step 3. Book reputation. Based on the markers on the research track, you would place a book for each in order. The highest person on the research track would place a book of their color on the 1 space. Second highest would be 2, and third highest 3. If players are tied, the top marker would go first. Step 4. Ready professors. You ready all of your professors by turning them vertically. Step 5. Take back masters. All the players will take their masters back and place them in their archive on their university board. Step 6. Advance the round marker. You would advance the round marker, and if the round marker reaches a metal space, then you would go into the final scoring. If not, you go to phase 3. Phase 3. The income phase. This phase gains you income and sets up your display. It is carried out in 3 steps. Step 1. Clean up your display. Get 1 money for each book in your display. Then you will slide the bookshelves right to left using the leftover bookcase that you have on your university board, filling it in on the right. Then you'll place the bookshelf that was pushed out on your university board. If that bookshelf had a book in it, you would place that book back into the supply. Step 2. Check students for income. These are the students that have the hand symbol. Step 3. Gain money based on the book reputation. Then we would go to the next round. Then rounds would continue until the end of phase 2 in round 6. Then we would go into the final scoring. Final scoring takes 9 steps. Step 1. Exchange each book in your storage for 1 money. Step 2. Exchange 4 money for 1 prestige point. Step 3. Exchange each dictionary for 1 prestige point. Step 4. Gain prestige based on the position on the book reputation track. Step 5. Gain prestige equal to the number of milestones passed times the number of professors that you have in your university. Step 6. Gain prestige for professors. These are the prestige numbers printed on the professor cards. Step 7. Gain prestige for math students. Step 8. Gain prestige equal to the students in Hall A times the number of students in Hall B. Step 9. Gain prestige based on the bust cards. Once you finish totaling your prestige, the player with the most prestige points has the most prestigious institution and wins Alma Mater.